Integral schooling transcends both traditional and modern. Where's postmodern in this table, you might ask? The column labeled modern here incorporates both modern and postmodern. In postmodern schooling, the model is essentially the same as in modern, but the content differs. What happened is that schools are controlled locally by school boards, and those school boards generally reflect whatever perspective is dominant in the geographic area they serve and control. So the values and content tend to be modern in some places, postmodern in others, and a mix in most, but following the same curriculum, classroom control structure of schooling. Postmodern teaching, as an example of a difference, would probably make more use of group projects and would tend to emphasize community service, social justice, probably environmental sensitivity. But again, the two employ the same basic structure. Modern and postmodern schooling rest on the insight that we each construct knowledge. In a modern, postmodern classroom, a skilled teacher lights a fire to stimulate thinking and insight, which builds knowledge. Then the teacher lights another fire to stimulate the next insight in the curricular sequence. And then time's up, or the bell rings, and the subject changes to something else. The same teacher, or in older grades, maybe a different teacher in a different room, then lights a fire to stimulate thinking about another subject. And then the teacher lights another fire, and so on. Meanwhile, for me, a student, there's a fire burning in me, several, in fact, but dang, they're not about this particular subject. For me, it's about something else entirely at the moment. And meanwhile, for me, another student, I've been here, done this. That fire was hot a while ago, but not now. And meanwhile, for me, yet another student, ain't no firewood in sight. I have no idea what this teacher's talking about. Let me unpack this a little bit. Oh, and we've arrived at the third of three pivotal moments here. So first of all, yes, we each construct our own knowledge, and we want to hold on to that insight and carry it forward into integral schooling. There are actually several discoveries that distinguish integral from modern and postmodern, which I'll mention later, but here's a big one. Not to push a metaphor too far or to mix metaphors, but here it is. The fire is already burning. And lighting a fire, another fire, is both difficult and counterproductive. The flame is there inside. It's the itch of dissonance that emerges chronically and spontaneously. Traditional schooling, filling a bucket, fails to recognize that children construct their own knowledge. Modern and postmodern schooling improve education by taking that into account. But modern, postmodern schooling fails to recognize that dissonance occurs spontaneously in children over and over again, creating irresistible motivation to act. Integral schooling improves education by taking that into account. The guiding metaphor for integral schooling is thus, fan a flame that's already there. Don't try to light yet another fire. Fan a flame that's already burning. In addition, integral schooling addresses some practical problems that have surfaced in modern and postmodern schooling. For example, as I tried to illustrate a moment ago, even the most talented teachers cannot stimulate insights in 20 students simultaneously. It's like herding cats. The problem is made more difficult because each student is in a different state of interest, motivation, and readiness to construct the knowledge that the teacher prescribes at each moment. Each student's configuration of stages and lines of development is different. Curricular sequencing is a problem too. Different pathways work for different children. In practice, much of the time, modern, postmodern teaching falls back on traditional methods. The best you're likely to do in modern and postmodern, on average, is to maintain order, get a fire going occasionally in a few kids, and watch them grow up. And by and large, I think that's what most schools are doing. Integral schooling harnesses the chronic dissonance that's part of being human. integral schooling also incorporates other findings that have been piling up. And that's what I want to take a look at now. In this last segment, I'll summarize findings and discoveries in recent decades